is looking at creating a morph. Look at the finished result video to see what it looks like, and this tutorial shows you how to go about doing it. Okay, first things first, we have a couple of different clips here on the timeline. We have a man alpha, a man image, and I just have a shape behind the two layers there on the bottom. So you can see here we have the alpha, we have the image, and then I have that yellow box. Now what I want to do is I want to combine these two, the alpha and the image, to create one video clip of the man with a transparent area around him, and I'm going to use that alpha clip to do it. Because I'm going to be using the alpha channel later on as part of the morph, then I need to have one clip that I can morph and also use its alpha channel. So the way I'll do it is just to set the blend mode of man alpha to stencil luma. So instead of using alpha like we did previously, we're using stencil luma. What this will do is it will map all of the white areas as opaque and all of the black areas as transparent onto this particular layer. So I'll set that to stencil luma. Now it's also applying the luma information to the shape layer, and that's why it's disappeared. So if I get the two of these and pre-comp them, then I'll have a single clip of the man's face and also the a new alpha channel that is going to be created from the alpha.mov. So I'll call this man with alpha. Now you can see that the alpha channel is in fact surrounding the guy's head, and you can see the yellow box behind him. So I've applied the alpha from the man alpha to the image, pre-comped them, and now the pre-comped version has the alpha channel and the face. Okay, so I can get rid of this. This is just to kind of demonstrate that we can now see an alpha channel around the guy. Okay, first thing I'll do is I'll change the name of this composition to morph, and I'm going to do the same now with the two sheep clips. So I'll drag these down underneath that. I'll turn the man off now. So I have the alpha channel set, or the alpha movie rather, set that to stencil luma. It applies the luma information and creates an alpha channel around the sheep. I'll pre-comp them. So now I have a single clip. Switch the man on again. Okay, so the idea here is that the man turns his head to the side, and as soon as he does, he starts turning into a sheep. So the first thing I need to do is I need to go up to my composition settings and give the timeline enough time to be able to accommodate all of this change. So it doesn't matter how long it is, so long as it's 15 seconds plus. So I'll just make it 20 and I can trim it back later on if I need to. Zoom out so I can see all my clips. Okay, so let's say this is where his head is turned to the right. So if I want to, I can leave, I won't leave a marker here, but I can pull the sheep layer out now. So when he turns to the right, the sheep comes in, and then he's going to morph into the sheep, disappear, and then the sheep will be left on screen. Alright, so the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to let this play until this point, and then I'm going to freeze both clips, the man and the sheep, for a second. I'm going to do my morph over that frozen second. You won't notice that it has frozen because the morph will be distracting you from the fact that neither the sheep or the man are actually moving, and then once the morph is over, the sheep will continue to move. So I'll enable time remapping on both of these layers, and what I will do is I will keyframe both layers at the start of the morph, copy that keyframe and paste it a second later. Actually won't, I'll paste it a frame later, and I'll show you why in a moment. I'll do the same with this, copy that and paste it one frame down. Now you'll remember from time remapping that if you want to freeze a clip and then have it play back normally at a normal speed, then you need to make sure that you're moving the pasted time data and the end keyframe also, because you want to keep or maintain the distance between these two keyframes and these two keyframes to make sure the time plays back at a normal speed. So I'll move that down, all the keyframes move, and I can then pull the sheep layer out, even though I have a funny feeling there isn't any clip there. Yeah, so that doesn't matter, I can trim that back later on. Okay, so let's see if it worked. Okay, he freezes, the sheep freezes, and then the sheep continues to move. That's fine, that's working. Okay, so this is set up now for the morph. I have my time that I'm going to do the morph, and I have the time frozen. Okay, the morph is a combination of a few different effects, and the most important effect that we're going to be working with is called reshape. A reshape is found under the distort set of effects, or you can just do a search for it. So that's reshape. I'm going to come back to that in a moment and apply it. Before I do, what I need to do is I need to create some masks. And I need to create a mask of the outline of the man and a mask of the outline of the sheep as they are when they're frozen. And these masks are then going to be used to reshape the man into a sheep and reshape the sheep from a man to a sheep, essentially. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Now there's a very quick way to create a mask around an object if you already have an alpha channel or some distinct color information to play with, and that's using auto trace. So I'll go up to layer, auto trace. It asks me, do I want to just create the mask from the current frame? What do I want to use? Do I want to use, which channel do I want to use? I want to use the alpha because that will give me an outline of the man. Click OK and you'll see it automatically creates that. And we now have a mask, and I'm going to call that man. Do the same to the sheep. Auto trace. Call this one sheep, and I'm going to change the color just to keep things simple for myself. Now I need to have both masks on both layers, so I copy, Command C, and then paste that down there, and I'll Command C, copy that, and paste it up there. Okay, now I'm ready to add the reshape. So I'm going to switch off the sheep, and I'm going to reshape the man first. So I'll drag the reshape effect onto man with alpha, and it pops up here in the effect controls. Okay, so the reshape takes two masks and shapes or reshapes an object from the first mask into the second mask. So the source mask is the mask that starts the morph. The destination mask is what you want to reshape into. So the source mask here is going to be man, the destination mask is going to be sheep. Now the percent is the amount of reshaping at that particular point on the timeline. So if on this point of the timeline I want it to be semi-morphed, I'll pop that up to 50. Now of course I want this to reshape or morph over time, so I'm going to put the playhead at the start of the area where it's going to morph, put a keyframe there, pull it to where I want the morph to end, and put that up to 100. And you can see now he's been reshaped into the shape of the sheep's mask. Now essentially what I'm doing is the same thing on the sheep layer now, but kind of in reverse. So I'll reshape, or drop the reshape effect onto sheep with alpha. This time I want to set the source mask as sheep, destination mask as man, and instead of keyframing from 0 to 100, I'm going to keyframe from 100 to 0. If I put this halfway through, you'll see a kind of a half of a morph. So the sheep is going from man to sheep, and the man is going from man to sheep. So when these two are overlaid on top of each other, you're going to get that morph effect. Now you could do a transition, or a transparency change, or a fade down, but a better one to use, as per the tutorial that I'm pointing you to on Creative Cow, is to use a gradient wipe. A gradient wipe is a little bit more dynamic in that it uses the lume or the brightness of one particular layer to make transparency and opacity on another layer, and you'll keyframe the amount of the gradient wipe as you go through the morph and it'll appear as if the tufts of wool are actually popping out from the guy's skin. So let's have a look at that. I'll turn back on man with alpha, set the gradient wipe layer to sheep with alpha, and if you look at transition completion, now you can see the effect there. So that's what a gradient wipe is going to do. So it looks a lot better than a transparency change. Now this looks a little bit harsh around these areas, so I'll soften that up to about 60. Now for this to appear as if it's happening over time, I just need to keyframe the transition completion from 0 to 100. And I'll just pull the playhead there through so you can kind of see how that works. Okay. So I'll deselect my masks now, and I'll just do a RAM preview. You can see the morph happening there. Now what I might also do here is just a slight, so when he comes in, the sheep kind of comes in a little bit too soon. So if I wanted to leave the man on a little bit longer, I might actually just do a tiny bit of an opacity keyframe here, just over a few frames. So it softens the introduction of the sheep, if you want to think of it that way. Okay. Now this isn't actually looking too bad, but if you want to fine-tune this in such a way that, I'll just switch off the gradient wipe. Let's say you want to actually fine-tune the reshaping so that the portions of the man actually morph into the exact parts of the sheep. Then you use what are called, let's see now, I can't remember the name of these things, correspondence points. Now, your correspondence points are visible when you select the reshape effect. You'll see one set of correspondence points down here. Now what these do is they say, I want this to reshape to this point. If you want to add another one, you hold down Alt, click on the mask, it creates 2 new correspondence points, and then you can move them up and down, and you can see that that will actually change where the man's features will map to the sheep's features. And you can do as many of these. The more of these you do, the better. Now some of them will pop onto the exact place where you need them. Some of them will kind of go to slightly odd places. You need to zoom in here. So I might want that point to go there. That's fine. I might want to put that up there a little bit. You can see how it changes the shape. Now some of them go places that you would not expect them to go, so you need to go around and move them a lot of the time. And so on. So now his face is going to go exactly where I need it to go, so it's more of a sheep kind of a look about it. So I can move that just to... Okay, so you can actually see the difference there. Now you'll have to go around, all the way around both layers, select your reshape, do all of your correspondence points. Now you can actually switch off your layers. You don't need the layers to be visible for this, but then you'll have to do it again for the sheep one. To make sure that the sheep is morphing to all of the right places. Okay, that's pretty much it. So just switch that on again. And switch that on. Zoom out. Just pull the playhead through there so you can have a look. Oh, switch on my gradient wipe. Okay, that's pretty much it.